Okay, everyone. Hi, this is Rockie Ventura, and today we're going to continue on with lesson two of the Master Resiliency training mentioned in the intro. If you haven't seen that, I'd recommend you go see that. You can easily break that one into two parts because it's about a 2 hour intro. I thought I was going to do that for you, but I ended up going straight through it. So if you haven't seen the Master Resiliency training introduction, go ahead and do that. You'll see it here in my file here on my playlist. But we're going to continue on, and today we're actually going to get into the actual skills. Now, in the first video, I introduced you to what resiliency is, and we defined resiliency. We talked about a few examples of what resiliency is. We even talked about why you'd want to be resilient, right? And I guess the bottom line up front that we got from that is that being resilient is like thinking of an egg versus a tennis ball. You can drop an egg and what happens? The egg will break, right? But if you drop a tennis ball, the same circumstance, the same thing happens, but it doesn't break, right? So if you drop the egg and if you drop the tennis ball, both of them are going to go down, but one will break and one will bounce back. And so we defined resiliency as the ability to bounce back, right? To overcome obstacles, to overcome things that you're going through. And we also say, why is that important? Why would that be important to overcome things? And I think if you were following along, the conclusion that we came up with was, hey, life happens, doesn't it? I mean, a lot of things happen in our life that we can't control. Some we can, and then some we can't, right? And so when those things that we can't control happen to us, how are we reacting? Are we like the egg or are we like the tennis ball and able to bounce back? So that was resiliency. And then we mentioned that inside the Army Master Resiliency Training Program, there are 14 skills built on a foundation of built on a foundation of 6 competencies. And I'm about to go over those competencies now. We talked about self-awareness, one of the competencies being self-awareness, and that's your ability to identify your thoughts, how you're thinking, what you think about yourself, your emotions, and your behaviors. We talked about the ability to identify the patterns in your behavior. What is it that you're doing that's keeping you from being the best version of yourself, right? Particularly those counterproductive behaviors is what we're talking about. And then we talked about being open and curious to learning new ways, to learning out new ways of doing things or not doing things. That right there is the first competency that we call self-awareness. We moved into talking about self-regulation as the second competency. And self-regulation, we compared it to a thermometer and a thermostat, right? A thermometer, all it does is just check the temperature, right? You can't do nothing about it. You're just checking the temperature. But we want you to be able to self-regulate, to be able to control the temperature, right? If you're getting mad, you're getting angry, sad, or happy, or too, so that's called what we call self-regulation. And this is your ability to regulate your emotions, your physiology, your behaviors, so that you can achieve the goals that you're trying to set out to achieve, okay? So that you can do the things that you want to do. To stop counterproductive thinking. So whenever a bad thought comes in your mind, like, oh, you can't do that. Well, what if you really want to do it, but you're allowing that to interfere with your ability to do it? Okay, so self-regulation allows you to say, okay, maybe I can't do it now, but I think if I do this, this, and this, yeah, I can do it. That's self-regulation, right? It's the ability to know that those thoughts are coming in your mind through self-awareness, and you can regulate yourself by doing something that goes against that. All right, the next competency we talked about is optimism. And optimism is your ability to hunt for things that are good in your life, right? You recognize that there are negative things that happen, but rather than dwelling on those negative things that do nothing for you, you choose to take a proactive stance and focus on those things that are positive. It's your ability to fight the negative bias, right? When you say you want to go back to school and you haven't been in school in over 30 years or something, 10 years, I don't know, whatever it is for you, what's the negative bias going to do for you? It's going to say, you can't do that. You haven't been in school in 10, 20 years, right? So optimism is, I'm going to go to school, and yeah, it might be a little hard, but I can do it if I stay persistent, if I study, if I take one class at a time, I can do it. So optimism is not neglecting the negative things. It's just choosing not to focus on it, because we just have a natural negative bias. And we're aware of that through self-awareness. Through one of the competencies, we're aware that it's going to creep up on us. So being optimistic says, I'm going to focus on the good things. All right. You're able to maintain hope when you're optimistic. You identify what's controllable, and you have confidence in yourself. And if you're working with the team, you have confidence in your team. You're not going to be negative. You're not going to say negative things about them or yourself. Okay. The other competency we talked about is mental agility, right? And mental agility is the ability to think flexibly, think accurately, and think thoroughly. Okay. You're not just randomly thinking stuff. So to be optimistic and say, I can do that. Okay. But you're saying, I can do that. And here's where the agility comes in, because I'm going to read this that tells me how to do that, right? Or because I'm going to study really hard or learn from the best people. You're being agile in the way you think. You're not just throwing random thoughts out there and saying like this false positiveness that says, I can do anything, right? Well, it takes a little agility to be able to actually do it, doesn't it? And so your mental agility allows you to do that. When you also have mental agility, you're able to take other people's perspectives, and you're not just seeing it from your viewpoint, but you're seeing it from someone who's already done it, right? Because sometimes we need that little push, right? You might say, well, I'm from this side of town. You don't understand how I grew up, where I come from. It's hard life for me. And you might claim that, and that might be your perception, your reality for you. But now pull someone who grew up right next to you, right? And do you think they use that same excuse, if they're successful? Probably not, right? They might say it as, well, that is exactly what drove me to success. So you got two different perspectives here. So if if you have mental agility, you're able to see other people's perspectives and realize through self-awareness, your perspective isn't the only one. All right. There's many perspectives, many ways to look at it. And in fact, many people have probably overcome what you're facing at the moment. All right. Another competency is being able to utilize your strengths of character. Basically, what this means is you have certain character strengths inside of you. And once you identify those character strengths, you're able to leverage those. So know which ones your character strengths are. And there's actually a self-assessment that you can take to do that. If you shoot me an email or write me on this, if you send me a comment here on this video, just put a comment at the bottom saying, can you send me the link, and I'll send it to you. And you can take that assessment for free, actually, from the University of Pennsylvania. And you'll be able to identify your character strengths. And then once you identifying those, having the faith to act out on your character strengths, to use those strengths and leverage them to get through whatever it is you're going through. All right, that's a competency of resiliency. And then the last competency, the sixth one, is the ability to have connections with people, right? Having strong connections, knowing that you can't do it on your own, right? You try, but you're gonna need help. We're a community type people, right? And so use positive and effective communication, talking to people the right way, treating them with respect and dignity and honor. You may take them out to dinner too. Learning how to develop empathy so that people will be attracted to you, right? Like when you're nice to them, and when you're empathetic versus sympathetic, we talked about the difference, right? Empathy is when you're with them. Sympathy is when you're away from them. You're just like, oh, I hope you're doing okay. And then empathy is like, oh, tell me about it. What are you going through? How can I help you out, right? So those are the two different. Being willing to ask for help, that's also in the connection competency. And then you also supporting others. When you support others, there's just a sense of like happiness and joy and fulfillment. I mean, try it. If you've ever helped anybody, go cut someone's grass just randomly, right? Or go pick up some paper in someone's yard and see, especially a person who can't really do it for themselves, right? An elderly person, perhaps. See the gratitude that they have, and how does that make you feel when you do that? Makes you feel good, doesn't it? So these are the 6 competencies that we're working with. And I'm going to do a brief introduction to our next topic here. So let me go ahead and bring up the slide, and we're going to do an introduction to the skills that, right? Because we talked about there's 6 competencies in Master Resiliency, and then there's 14 skills. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up this PowerPoint slide here. And then we'll talk about, let's see here, share screen. Where is my PowerPoint? All right, 1 second. Oh, I know what I got to do. Give me a second. Sorry about that. There it is. Okay. So let me try it again. Share screen. Sorry about that. I should have had this. There you go. I see you now. Okay, so share, put it on presentation mode, turn off the subtitles, which took me forever last time. And here we go. So again, welcome to the Comprehensive Soldier Family and Fitness program, where our job is to help build resiliency and enhance your performance through doing that, okay? We believe that you can do that through 14 skills. I am going to introduce you to these skills now. And then we'll talk about the program a little bit, and then we'll move into the actual first skill here today. I anticipate this class being about an hour and a half long. Okay, it's going to be a big one today. But it does come, there is a participants guide that you're supposed to be using with this. If you already have the participants guide, I believe the pages that we'll be working from starts. Let's see, I'm looking at it myself. We will be starting on page 18 of the, well, technically 17, because it has all the steps for goal setting for you. But we'll be starting there, and then we're gonna walk on that first skill, which I just gave it away. But okay, so let's go ahead and do an introduction here. So these are the 17 skills that we'll be learning here today. Trust me, we're gonna go through each of them all one by one, but I'll just quickly name them here. This one here is called goal setting. You can see goal setting is based on a compass. And what does a compass do? It kind of points you in the right direction, right? Gives you the true north and tells you where you're at, shows you where you're at and where you're going. All right, this one's called hunt the good stuff. That's another skill. We got ATC, right? And I'll explain ATC, what that is later. Then we have energy management. You can see that's kind of shown like a life beat there. And then we have avoid thinking traps. There's the lock for that. Then we got detect icebergs, and a big old iceberg for that one. Then we got put it in problem solving. You got the light bulb to reflect problem solving. Then we got put it in perspective. All right, your ability to look at things differently. Then you got mental games. We got a little chess piece there to simulate or to show that. Real-time resiliency, boxing gloves, like how you be resilient in real time. Character strengths, okay. Assertive communication, and praise and active constructive responding. Like, how do you respond to people the right way? Okay, so these are several skills that we'll be going through, and today we're going to be focused on MRT. But before I leave this slide, kind of want to point out some things. When you look at all these skills in a bigger light, what does it look like to you? What is it? What are all of these skills? If you just take it all, just the shape of it all, what do you think that looks like to you? The whole shape, not the individual, but the whole shape. All right, if you said shield, you'd be absolutely correct. All right, it does look like a shield, right? When you're being resilient, you got your, soldier in the Roman times, right? They had a big old shield to protect them because things are coming at us and we need to be able to protect ourselves. And so resiliency is kind of in the shape of this shield. And I want you to think of it like that. All of these combined help you to become a resilient person, and on the foundation of the competencies that you have in here and in here, okay? You got your competencies in your mind and your heart. But the shield through these skills will help you actually fend off the resiliency. And that's kind of how I want you to see these. When you put all of these together, knowing when and where and how to use them and when to use them and which one to use in which scenario. You see, if you took one apart, you can still use it as a shield as well, right? But you're stronger when you have all of them together. Okay, so that's kind of how I want you to think of the resiliency skills. Is it's there to protect you. You use these whenever you feel like you need resilience. And when do you need resilience? Pretty much all the time, right? Okay, so all right, here we go. So as we're going through this training program and we start unraveling each skill one at a time, I want you to think of it as a crawl, walk, run phase. And when I say crawl, what I mean by that is, your ability to take in this information and slowly learn it, right? And we're gonna actually practice it. Walking is actually you practicing it away with me, right? So here in this training, we're crawling, okay? Go easy, be kind on yourself. You're gonna learn some new things that you've never heard before. Some of these you're gonna buy into immediately, and some of them might take a little long, and some of them you may never buy into them. And I hope that's not the case, because we're in training, and one of our competencies, right, is to be aware and to be agile. And if you want to be agile, then consider these perspectives as what we're teaching you, okay? But in any event, this is considered a crawl phase, this class. And then when you practice it on your own, or as you do it here when we do the practical exercise, that's the walk phase. But hey, when you're done and you're out in the real world, away from this class, away from this video, that's your run time, okay? Your go, and you're going to be putting this application to use. And so there it is, the crawl, walk, run phase there. All right, let's see here. All right. So skill mastery requires that you know, right? You got to know what the skill is. So as we're going through this class, make sure you understand what it is I'm trying to teach you through these Army Resiliency training program. What is this? What's the skill about? And if you don't know, then play the video again and really understand, what is this skill about? When do I use this skill? Okay, when are you supposed to use this skill? And then how do you use it? Okay, these are the three questions you should always be asking yourself every time I teach you a new skill. What is the skill? When do I use it? And how do I use it? Okay. By doing this, it's going to help you build mental toughness. All right, these are mental toughness, what we call mental toughness skills. And it says participants will learn to set skills that will be enhanced, that will enhance their effectiveness and well-being by building their mental toughness. These skills will also develop your ability to understand your own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, and the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of others also, okay? So it's gonna be kind of cool, because as you're learning these things about yourself, like this light bulb is gonna turn on and you're gonna be like, wow, I think I understand what they're doing, what they're going through too, all right? It's kind of cool how this works, because you get to really understand the psychology of people and how they behave, and some of our natural tendencies and patterns, and so it's exciting. I hope you're excited about going through this training program. All right, let's get to our first goal setting. Our first skill, and we're in the first unit here, and this is called goal setting, okay? And so again, the goal setting is identified by a compass. All right, what's a compass do for you? Well, it can do two things, right? It can point you to where true north is. So if you're ever lost, at least you know where north is by just holding the compass. You can say, okay, where is north? Because if you know where north is, and you know that you live south, or you're trying to go south, well, at least now you have a reference to do that, right? And then a compass also realigns you. So at any time, if you start walking to the direction you think is south, you can just pull out your compass to see if that is still true. Are you still walking in that direction? So, a compass does a lot for you, and that's why this skill is called goal setting. See if I missed out anything in my notes here. Okay, so this lesson will teach you better strategies for effectively goal setting and the common language so that and a common language so that you can coach others to set goals too. Okay, so once you understand how to set goals, you'll be able to help others. And so maybe you have friends, maybe you have children, maybe you mentor, coach other people. So this is going to be a really great skill. Once you have that, you'll be able to effectively teach them that. Okay. All right, here's the overall MRT skills again. And again, we're using the compass, right, which is goal setting. So here's the bottom line about goal setting. All right, goal setting is going to help you. This is the main competency that this skill builds is self-regulation, right? Self-regulation, what did we say self-regulation does? It's our ability to stay within where we want. So say we want the temperature to be 70 degrees, we just go to that thermostat and set it at 70, all right? And so anytime that the air in the room gets colder, guess what that AC will do? It will self-regulate itself and pump more hot air in it. And if it gets too hot, guess what it'll do? It'll turn off the hot air, maybe inject some cold air, right? To kind of bring that down. So self-regulation is the ability for your body to really keep you on the track to where you want to go. So goal setting can be an effective means to grow and thrive, especially following adversity. Okay, so if something tragic were to happen to you, in my case, I went through a really bad era of depression in my life back in 2003 to 2005. And I was just at the bottom of the bottom, like as low as I can go. Really, really suicidal thoughts at that time. Just depressed. I was severely depressed. And so, I learned a little bit about goal setting, not to this capacity, mind you, like the way we're learning it now, but I started learning about goal setting and about, putting things in my life and focusing on things. And because I was able to do that, I was able to get out of that slump of depression because I realized there was hope for me. And there was hope because I kept putting things in my mind to go after rather than staying focused on those negative things. I was now focused on things that I could pursue. So goal setting is an effective strategy for achieving those dreams, those goals that you may have, as well as enhancing your performance. So you might say, I want to lose, 20 pounds. All right, goal setting will help you do that. You might say, I want to change my income from $10 an hour to $50 an hour. You might say, you want to be in a relationship. You might, there's so many things that you may have in your mind. Goal setting, this skill will help you do that. Okay. And so can you imagine just already the benefits you're getting from just setting goals and then actually achieving them? And that's really what we're talking about here, right? Why set a goal if you're not going to achieve it? So we're not only going to teach you how to plan for a goal, but we're going to teach you how to actually stay on track so that you can achieve that. And so I want you to think of goal setting. When goal setting is a process to be deliberately, all right, deliberately energize, direct, and sustain behavior to ensure progress. And I want you to underline, or if you're taking notes, then underline the word deliberately. Okay. It is a process to deliberately, you're going to deliberately energize yourself. All right. What do you think of when you think of energize? Huh? What do you think of? You probably think of like getting like waking up, right? Okay. So you're going to deliberately energize yourself. You're going to direct yourself. What does direct mean? Like focus, right? You're looking at a certain direction, right? Directing means to tell yourself where to go, where to think, how to look, and then to sustain behavior. And all these things, you're going to energize, you're going to direct, and you're going to sustain, self-regulate your behavior to ensure you keep progress. All right, it's not gonna be like this random sign. Hey, you ever seen a sign and it's just so confusing? Take a look at this sign there, right? It's just like good luck, and which way do I go? Well, that way, that way, that way. No. We're going to eliminate that. We're going to energize you. We're going to direct you, and you'll be able to sustain that behavior so that you can ensure progress in whatever it is you said you wanted to do. Okay, see if I missed out anything here. All right. Oh, and about the yeah, I did miss something. So about the energized behavior part, motivation is what helps you to do that. Okay, we're going to talk about motivation in more detail here, but it also provides motivation is going to be a key. Like, how do you motivate yourself to want to do it? All right, how many of you set a goal and you just like lost motivation to do it? So we're going to break it down step by step so that you can internally learn to motivate yourself when we do that. All right. Let's see here. All right, 1 second here. All right, so we're gonna turn to page 19 of your, and I'm turning there with you. We're gonna turn to page 19 of your participants guide, and we're going to ask the question now, what motivates you? All right, I mean, really, what motivates you? And you can see on page 19 that there are questions on either side. And I want you to take the time to think about, before writing anything, just really think in your mind, what motivates you and what motivates others. And right now, just start thinking of some stuff. You can pause this video if you want, because I'm not going to give you enough time to do all that thinking. But go ahead and pause the video and ask yourself, what motivates you? All right. How do you motivate yourself right now? And then how do you motivate others? And here in my book, I actually did this exercise. Um, and things that I said, what motivates me is being meaningful and purposeful with my life, right? Like, I know that I only have a little bit of time in my life to do things. So I that motivates me. Challenges motivate me. It wasn't like that in the past, but now I like challenges. People say I like to hear praises, I guess, and I don't do it for the praise, but I do like the praise. I like it when people say like, "Man, how do you do that? Like, that's cool," or "You inspire me," right? Like, I don't know. I get a lot of energy when people say that. And so another thing that motivates me is I like to add value to people. When people say those praises, I know that I'm right in the right ballpark because I know that I'm adding value to them, right? Not that I'm driven by money, right? But the idea of building wealth motivates me, because when I have wealth, I'm able to give more. And really, that's the underlying factor for me, is the ability to give. Like one time, when the Girl Scouts come or something like that, and they're selling their cookies, you know how horrible I feel knowing that those skill sets are helping them to learn how to be entrepreneurs and sell. And then they come to me and I'm like, sorry, I ain't got no money. And now I probably got to lie to them. And I'm like, I'm not interested in cookies right now. I'm full, right? How embarrassing that is. I don't have to lie to them, but I have. And that's embarrassing, right? So what motivates me is that I can give back to the community. And so I can only give back if what I have, right? And so building wealth for me, having money, not having to pay all my money to debt, but being able to pay my money to things that I want to pay my money to, and not to credit cards and bill collectors, is just so annoying. So those things motivate me. What motivates others, I put here, establishing reward systems, right? Like, I know people like rewards, they like praises, so those things motivate others. The use of media sometimes motivates others. You can put on like an inspiring message. Hey, maybe this YouTube video for you is inspiring you, it's motivating you. Working with a team that's really good motivates others, right? Like, if you're like if you might not be that good like me, right? There was a time I didn't think of myself as being good, but because I was in a good team, I was motivated to perform my best. And so that's kind of funny how motivation works if you think about it, but it was true for me. um okay, let's see here. Give me 1 second. Okay, and then create stimulating challenges for the team that could motivate other people as well. So what motivates you? I gave you some of mine. Now tell me a little bit about yours. What motivates you? And write those down. Think about those. Pause the video and tell me what motivates you. Okay. Oh, but okay. All right. So we're gonna go into a really cool lesson here on the sources of motivations. We talked on our own self, like what motivates you and what motivates other people. And there was actually a study done by, as you see here, Richard Ryan and Ed Beachy. Okay, and they talked about the sources of motivation, and basically what they came up with, and we're going to go through each one of these one by one. But the first one being intrinsic motivation. Now, intrinsic motivation is something that's inherently inside of you. Like you were born with this, all right? Like, so you ever bump into those people and you're just like, wow, why that person's always on fire, right? Like they're just like go-getters, and they're like these unicorns. And where did you come from, man? You're just always on fire. All right. Intrinsic motivation refers to doing something because it's inherently interesting and enjoyable. It's something that just triggers you to say, oh yeah, I love that, right? When I was younger, I used to bump into people who loved reading. I could not stand reading, but you give them a book and they'll digest it in days, if not hours, right? Like they just loved it. It was just something inside of them. And I wasn't like that, right? So it's something that is inherently interesting or enjoyable. This is what we call intrinsic motivation. Okay. Think about children playing. We need to understand other sources of motivation to utilize when we or those we lead are not intrinsically motivated. So a child playing, in recess in elementary school, you don't have to tell them to go play, right? They just go do it. It's something that they enjoy doing, and they're intrinsically motivated. You don't have to convince them. But for others that are not intrinsically motivated, we have to think of other ways that we can motivate them, right? To do certain tasks, to do certain things, and to include ourselves, right? Like how are we motivating ourselves? And so the rest of the model is going to talk about that, right? Like all those aspects of different types of motivation here. And so let's go ahead and get into that. Now, this is what we call, we have the far spectrum is instrumental, and then closer to intrinsic. Remember, intrinsic is inherently, but now you're getting closer to that. We call that internal, right? Like intrinsic means you're just automatically going to do it because it's who you are. But now if you're to the left of that internal, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to do it, but you have put enough stuff inside of you to want to do it. All right. And so it's almost going to be like an automatic response versus an instrumental, which we'll talk about here. So actually, let me bring it up. So instrumental motivation refers to doing something because it will lead to certain outcomes. Okay. Specifically a reward or punishment or shame and guilt, right? So if you're going to get money for something, that's going to be an instrumental because you're going to get some sort of reward, or if you don't do it, you'll get punished for it. And so that's what we call instrumental. And it could also be used in a sense of shaming and guilt. Like if you don't do it, you'll be shamed and you'll have some guilt. So, I know in Texas, you don't litter, right? That's where I'm from. It says that, and so, you're not going to do it because that's the expectation. So you may not want to do it, but there's like some sort of instrumental thing going on built by society that's saying, hey, you shouldn't litter. Okay. And so it's not necessarily who you are. Maybe you litter all day at your home, at your house. It's a mess, right? But because people are watching, the Texans are watching you if you're in Texas. That's an instrumental motivation. Okay. And then you got, let's see, I'll read this example of the rewards one. It says, if I improve my score, I'll get a 4-day pass. This is if you're in the military, right? You sometimes we get a 4-day weekend, and it doesn't count against our leave. So they're motivated by something, a reward. If I don't improve, I'm going to have to spend a ton of extra time cleaning my weapon, going to the EST, and going back to the range. All right. So a person who's are motivated instrumentally to do good at the range, they trying to get a reward out of it. Okay. And then here's an example of the shame and guilt side. In order to avoid these emotions, people often engage in the desired behavior. So you don't want to have shame and you don't want to have guilt. Here's an example. If I fail, I'll be letting my platoon down. I don't want to be responsible for that, right? So sometimes that might not be who you are, but you know that if you fail, you're going to be the one responsible for holding everybody up, right? So you're, again, another way of using instrumental motivation to get the job done. Okay. Okay, so now that we understand the instrumental motivators, here's just a little bit more information. So instrumental motivators can have short-term benefits, right? But are not as effective in the long run because they undermine autonomy. So really where we want to get at is to the point where we can start doing things and it's automatic, and you don't need a reason to do it, right? It's just becomes automatic. I think about drinking water, for example. It's not necessarily intrinsic in me, right? It's not something I'm like wake up and I'm excited about, but drinking water is automatic for me because inside I'll get thirsty. There are things that will happen, and so it's like an automatic. It's autonomy for me now because I built such a habit. Before it was instrumental because I would get dehydrated, but now the autonomy is just like I just do it, and it just becomes an automatic thing for me. And I think most videos you see, I'm having water, and it's not even like I'm thinking about it anymore. It's not like I say, "Oh, I'm gonna get dehydrated." It's just it's an internal thing, and so we're gonna talk about that. Let me drink water on. Okay, so your desire to be in charge of your own behavior, that's autonomy, right? Like you're in charge. No one's giving you a reward. There's no incentive. You're doing it because, hey, I want to do this. That's what autonomy is, and that's kind of what our goal is, to move over to the right? So let's go ahead and talk about that. Oh, and then instrumental motivators can also be overused, which can reduce internal motivation. So, sometimes you can overuse those things that you're using for instruments, right? At some point you might get to a point where it's like, I don't need the money. I'm just not going to do it anymore. So maybe money was a motivator, but you could get to a point where you just burn out and money's not the motivator anymore. Think about people who have lost weight. Maybe they were instrumentally motivated, right, by losing the weight, and then how many of them gained it back not too long after that, right? And then why do they gain it back? It's because they achieved what they wanted, and it's no longer fascinating, and they didn't learn how to turn that into an internal habit, right, that keeps them going. It's not about the weight. It's not about, it's because you do it because you want to do it. And that is the goal when it comes to goal setting, is forming these habits that are internal, that keeps you moving in the direction that you want to go. All right, so let me use my PowerPoint here. Okay, so we talked about the rewards and we talked about punishment. And then now on the internal side, it's more about self-identity. Okay, self-identity, it's about who you are inside. All right, to be internally motivated means to be internally motivated, it's because that is who you are, right? That's who you are inside. That's who you've become over the years. I continued to serve in the military. At first I was instrumentally driven, right? I wanted college tuition paid for. I wanted the prestige of being in the military. There was a lot of instrumental rewards for me. And then I followed the rules, right? Because I didn't want to be punished, right? But now I follow the rules. I stay in the military, and now it's for different reasons. It's because it's who I am. It's part of my values. It's part of my beliefs. It's part of the what I have become throughout those years. So let's talk about that. Internal motivation refers to doing something that is not inherently enjoyable, right? So that's intrinsic. Intrinsic means it's inherently enjoyable. So internal motivation refers to doing something that is not inherently enjoyable because it is something internally valued or reflects an individual's core identity. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about that core identity. What makes up the core identity? It's your values. And we're going to talk about values throughout the whole time. This is going to be the first time I'm using it in the resiliency training. But values, you value that behavior. You recognize the value in doing an activity may cause someone to engage in that desired behavior. Okay, so by doing it more, you're going to end up doing it more, and the more you do it, the more it becomes a part of you. All right, think about riding a bike. First you rode a bike, you were instrumentally motivated for the prestige you'd get, and then the punishment, or you didn't want to fall and hurt yourself, so you focus on really driving a bike. But after that, none of those mattered anymore. You became a bike rider, and that's who you were, and it became a part of your identity. So let's talk about identity. Identity is the core values that guide the way we live our lives every day, and our beliefs are about who we are, influence what goal related behaviors we engage in. Now, let me say that again so you can write that down. Self-identity, like who are you as a person, right? And what we teach in the resiliency course is when we're defining who you are, it's based on two things: what you value and what you believe about yourself. So values are the core values that guide the way we live our lives every day. All right, what do you value? Like, you value family, then you're going to be guided by family decisions, right? You're not going to be going out hanging with your friends or something because family is first. You're not going to be hanging out with them on Christmas Day with total strangers, right? You're probably going to be with your family because you value family, right? Unless you valued friends, and in that way, then you allow those values of friendship. Maybe that's your highest value, and you'll live by that. And then belief is what you believe about yourself, about the world, about others. All right. So if you believe that if you put your mind, anything you put your mind to, you can achieve. If you believe that, then your behaviors are going to express that, right? But if you believe, well, I don't think I can do that, then how do you think your body is going to respond to that? Right? It's probably not going to respond well, right? It's probably not going to want to do the things that you should be doing. Let's talk about maybe, I mean, you can fill in the blank with anything, right? Maybe you're afraid to get on a plane or something. And if you believe the worst out of a plane ride, right, then you're not going to want to get on the plane. You're not going to be motivated to get on the plane. But if you believe in the statistics that planes don't go down, statistically speaking, they're the safest mode of travel. If you believe that, and then if you value the location that the plane is taking you to, right? So if you value family and you combine those two, the belief and the value, well, wow, that makes for a strong internal motivation, right? And so that's what we're really talking about when we say internal motivation. It's how are you identifying yourself with the goal that you want to achieve? Where are you allowing yourself to start from? What belief and what values do you have as it relates to the goal you're trying to achieve? Okay, so internal motivators mimic intrinsic motivation. I'll say it again. Internal motivators mimic intrinsic motivation in that they tend to be more effective, especially long term. So yeah, we all want to be naturally, like, intrinsically motivated, right? Like you just do it because that's who you are, right? That's a great, but the reality is sometimes we have to build ourselves to that point. Again, we use the example of the kid. A kid is intrinsically motivated to play. You don't have to teach them to play. You don't have to tell them to play. You just throw them on the playground and guess what they're going to do? They're going to play. That's what we call intrinsic motivation. But now as you get older, that intrinsic stuff goes away eventually, right? And now you got to motivate yourself to do it. And here's what we're talking about. There's two ways to motivate yourself. There's the instrumental side, the rewards, or you're doing it for a reward, or maybe you're doing it for a punishment, right? You don't want to get in trouble. Or you're doing it for the internal side, which is, hey, it's just who you are. And understanding that you have the ability to shape yourself into either one of those. You can do it through rewards and punishment, which is how I started off a lot of my goals, right? I was in the military for rewards and punishment. I didn't want to get in trouble, so I joined the military to straighten my life. I wanted the benefits, so that was my reward. But then I stayed in the military for the internal motivation because it was who I am. So I hope we're getting a sense of what this slide is about. It's an extremely powerful slide. And it's so important that we cover this even before we actually talk about it. We haven't even talked about the skill of goal setting yet. All we're doing is laying the foundation to understand what our goals based off of. If you don't understand what motivates you to want to do something, you're not going to achieve the goal. And that's why we lay this foundation here in the Master Resiliency Training. You have to understand that motivation is the fuel. When we talk about that word energize, your energy is going to come from motivation. And you're going to keep wanting to do it because probably initially you're going to do it for the reward and punishment. But what's going to keep you moving, the goal is to get you on the internal side. Okay. Okay. I hope that was pretty clear for you. We're going to move on to the next section now. Now, I want you to talk about I want us to talk about some of the benefits of internal motivation. All right. When you are internally motivated to do something, all right, let me go back to this slide there, the internal, the instrumental. We're not talking about rewards and punishment, but when you are internally motivated to do something, here are some of the natural benefits that come out of that. All right. Number one, and some of these might be self-intuitive, right? They might seem like common sense, and that's because many of them are. Excuse me. Number one, it's going to decrease anxiety. When you start doing things because it's who you are, you're no longer, you won't feel as anxious as you were when you first started out. For instance, when I first started public speaking, I knew there was rewards for doing it, right? I knew that if I was a good public speaker, people would look at me differently. People would be like, wow, that guy's cool. And it so it kind of build my popularity, things like that, right? That was my reward. My punishment was to do it right was, I would look embarrassed and this and that. I would feel anxious though when I was using that kind of motivation because it's a lot of pressure on me, right? To achieve the reward and avoid the punishment. But now as I became and started saying, I am a speaker and it's just who I am. And then I understood that speakers fumble, speakers mess up, speakers are not perfect. And I became okay with that. I mean, how many times have I messed up my words here on this video? I'm totally at peace with it, right? So the more you become internally motivated, meaning it's who you are, you come to grips and say that's fine. And for me, the biggest one is being human, right? Like, hey, humans mess up. And so I don't put a lot of stress when I mess up. I could have totally blown it, right? And I just, it don't bother me now. It really doesn't, and I get it. People are going to hate me. People are going to be annoyed by me. I get it. And I also get that 10% of the world is not going to like me and they're going to hate me. They're, all these things. I'm okay with that. But that's because I know who I am. I know, even being spiritually speaking, I know whose I am, right? I'm God's child. And so, it decreases anxiety. But here's another one. It enhances concentration. How would being internally motivated enhance your concentration? Right? Think about that. Maybe you're focused on all kinds of things, but if you're internally motivated, think about like this with bike riding. And here's a good example. When you're bike riding and you're learning to ride the bike, the reward is to learn to ride the bike. And the punishment is if you don't learn to ride the bike, you're going to fall and hurt yourself. And then you won't get to play with your friends who are riding the bike, right? Okay. If you're focused on the instrumental motivation, which is what that was, rewards and punishment, then you're not going to be able to concentrate because you're like, you don't want to fail. But if it's who you are a bike rider and you're riding for that sake, you're going to be more relaxed. You're going to be able to concentrate more because this is who you are, right? It also increases positive motivation. All right, we talked about optimism, and a little bit of that is being positive, but the positive emotion that comes inside of you from being who you are, from living out your values and beliefs. I think a lot of stress comes when we don't live out our values and beliefs. Have you ever told a white lie or something, and in your values you just knew that you weren't raised like that to do that, and then you said it and it's like, man, you start feeling negative, and but when you live true to who you are, you start having these positive emotions about yourself, like, what, they may not have liked that decision, but I stuck true to who I am, right? So again, internal motivation. You start feeling, you have a feeling of flow when you're living in that internal motivation, your self-identity, you do get this sense of flow, like, yeah, and then you start bragging about it, your friends are like, yeah, look how good I am, and I was built for this, and you start feeling it inside, don't you? It's just, this is what we in psychology we call a state of flow, and a lot of sports athletes use this term. Sometimes in a basketball game they'll say he's on fire, right, or she's on fire, and look at it, they're invincible, right? This is another word, a psychological word that is used, and it's called a state of flow. And when you're in a state of flow, you are being who you are, your best version of yourself. Okay. And that, again, internal motivation gets you there. And so, yeah, when I go work out, when I started working out, I didn't want to work out. I did it for the rewards and the punishment. The reward was I'll lose weight, I'll look good. The punishment was the opposite, right? I'll gain weight. And so, but now it doesn't matter about the weight gain. Yeah, I use weight gain, the weight to kind of keep my left and right, but it's not about that. It's about being on this this level that I know a lot of people are not performing at. And it's just a state of mind. Like, I'm different. There's something different about me. Like, I'm hardwired to be different. And I like the feeling I get when I finish a run, when I finish a workout, when I have a sweat. And I know what you're saying. Like, who likes that? Trust me, I was there like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I think it was. But it's just something happened in the process that, it just became who I am. And I started developing this state of flow. And I tell you, I could stay out till 3, 4 in the morning and I'll still feel the urge to want to work out at 7 in the morning. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm telling you, it's nothing that's making me do it other than saying, this is who I am. All right. So, all right. It increases the effort and persistence. All right. So anything you're trying to go after, yeah, you might see a new challenge like, oh man, I got to do what now? Right. But all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh, I can do that. So that's what that statement means. It's going to increase your effort and your persistence. You're going to want to accomplish it because why? Yeah, because you can, right? You can. I said this about my master's degree. After I did my bachelor's, which was what, 120 hours. Man, a master's was like 32 hours. Seriously. I said, why? Because I can. If I did 120 hours, can I do 32? So, and I'm actually saying this now about my doctorate degree. It's a 60-hour program. But I've actually been feeding myself this information. Like, still, a bachelor's degree was the longest. I think if a person can finish a bachelor's degree, they can finish anything because that is the longest program out of all of them. A master's is shorter, a doctorate is shorter. A bachelor's is our longest and hardest one. It's a lot of classes that you're probably not going to use again. It drives me crazy. But once you get over that bachelor's degree, I can see now why the business world pays you a little bit more, because they understand that if you can finish a 120-hour program, hey, you have persistence, right? You can be consistent. You can be relied upon and finish anything. So regardless of the degree you have, if you finish that program, hey, kudos to you, because that shows already the type of character that you possess inside of you. And then provide satisfaction, right? When you have internal motivation, aren't you just naturally satisfied to want to, or with yourself? Like, you just kind of like look at yourself and like, yep, I knew I could do it. Like, it's sometimes you don't even get wowed anymore, maybe, right? If you're that type of person, because you're just naturally satisfied You're just like, yeah, you get to a point where you expect yourself to do it, which is the next comment, fulfills the need for autonomy, right? You become on this automatic mode, and you're like, you just start, it's who you are. You're automatically doing it. Nobody has to tell you, or nobody has to incentivize you. You're doing it because it's who you are. So again, I hope that you see the benefits of internal motivation. I'll go back to this slide one last time. Again, intrinsic motivation means that it's inherent inside of you. You know, kid going to a playground, you know, you don't have to tell them to do it, they just naturally do it. Some of you, no one had to tell you how to read books, you just naturally read books. That wasn't me. You know, when I was coming up, I had to become an internal motivator. And first I started on the instrumental. Oh, let me tell you this one real quick. So with reading books, never read books in my middle school, high, never read books unless I had to. And that was the instrumental side. I think I read Jurassic Park. I read the book It. I think I read Frankenstein and Dracula. I like those. Those are cool, but I didn't do it because I was interested. I did it because my teacher made me. There's the rewards and punishment, right? And then over time, I fell off and stopped reading books until I got to college. And again, the same thing happened to me, rewards and punishment. If I didn't read what I had to read, then I was going to fail the course. But then I finished, I graduated, and then what? What was motivating me then? Well, I found out about this book or this app called Audible, right? And Audible was different. And I realized the reason I didn't like reading books is because I didn't like reading the words. It was a word thing for me. I don't know. Maybe it was my dyslexia kicked in. I don't know. But it was just a word thing for me. And so someone told me about audio, you know, and listening. And it's funny how Audible does this. They have this reward program, right? So if you read a book, they gives you like these trophies. And I got instrumentally motivated by those little trophies. And then over time, I stopped caring because I got so involved in the books. And then the books transformed me into being internally motivated. And I would say over a period of 5 years, maybe it took a while. But now I read books. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I shave, you know, I shave. And guess what's playing? A book. If I'm cleaning, guess what's playing? A book. If I'm running, what's playing? A book. So Audible did that to me, and that's an example of the internal. I'm still not, I wouldn't say I'm intrinsically motivated. Like it wasn't something that was inherent inside of me. Like some people can just read books and they've always read books since little. But I will say that's a good example for me of internal. Okay, we're going to get into the bread and butter of goal setting. Told you this is a long lesson, so at any time if you you know, you want to pause, just pause. All right, that's the benefits of watching these videos. You know, you can pause it, take your time. We're about to get into we're almost done with the intro of goal setting. Believe it or not, this is still the intro. And then we're going to get into the steps. So let's talk about this. In your participant guide, I'm looking at mine now. I want you to write down your bucket list. Okay. Now up there we put what motivates you, and then up there you were supposed to put what motivated those that you lead on your participant guide. Okay. Now at the bottom section there, it talks about your bucket list. And I want you to take the time. I want you to pause the video because this really is the catalyst for goal setting. And I want you to go to town with this one, okay? When I talk about your bucket list, these are things you've always wanted to do. And don't let anything stop you from thinking it. Don't say, wow, that's not going to happen, or I don't got the money for that, or yeah, right, I wish. Don't let those thoughts get in your way. Don't just be a floater right now. Be no restraints, no restrictions. You imagine unlimited resources, unlimited time. Start from that point. Isn't that funny how sometimes we have a goal and we might say, well, I want to lose 10 pounds. And then the first thing that comes to mind, oh, but the effort, or oh, but the time, or oh, but my job, or right, or the equipment, or the no gym. And then we start bam, 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 bam. And all of a sudden we built this wall, and our goal is stuck in that wall. We cemented that wall and we can't get in. I'm telling you to tell me your bucket list. What are your dreams? What are your goals? What are your aspirations? And let me kind of get you in the ballpark of some of this, right? Let's talk about image. How do you want to look? I mean, in the perfect world, If you could snap your finger, right? Because no limitation, how would you want to look to yourself? How do you want your image to be? You want short hair? You want long hair? You want facial hair, no facial hair? You want long nails, short nails? What do you want? What size do you want to be? Right? How much do you want to weigh? Give it a number. No restrictions. No restrictions. Don't tell me your sicknesses. Don't tell me your limited. What do you want to look like? How do you want others to look at you? When you walk by, do you want people to give you that double look like, wow, that person's beautiful. That person looks really great, is handsome. Do you want that? Is that what you want? Are you interested? How do you dress? What kind of clothes do you want to wear? Again, there you go. Don't let the money get in the way. Right? What kind of clothes do you want to wear? Are you wearing suits? Are you wearing summer dresses? What are you wearing? What do you look like? Like like your everyday, what do you look like? What do you look like in the summertime, in the fall? How do you fit into that? Is it tight? Is it loose? No restrictions. What do you want to look like? If you're married or you have a spouse, how do you want your spouse to look at you? Right? Like really, no restrictions, no nothing. This is you now. How do you want your spouse to look at you? You want your spouse to look at you and say, you're beautiful. You're beautiful, right? You want the thing to happen. How do you want people to look at you? What do you want your friends to say? Oh, you're pretty, right? You're handsome. What do you want comments to come out? And all right, no restrictions yet. We haven't making a plan. We're just dreaming. We're throwing it in the bucket. All right, let's move from image. All right. Well, we'll stay on image. Character. Let's talk about character now, right? Because you can see character, can't you? I mean, if a person looks like a gangster, what are they going to call him? You can call him a gangster, right? If a person looks like a schoolboy, what are you going to call him? A schoolboy. So yeah, it's an image thing too. What do you want people to think about your image? I used to get so frustrated when people thought of me as a little thug, a little gangster, but the silliness of my thinking, right? I get so mad when they say, and I say, oh, you're biased, you're prejudiced. Oh, it's because I'm from this side of town. It's because I'm this guy. I would say all this stuff, right? Come on, I was playing the part. I fell straight into it. I would curse. I would talk the slang. I would change my words. I'd be like, yeah, what's up? Like I'd talk deeper. I was playing the whole part, and I would get mad when people would say, why are you like that? And I would blame them. I would play the victim. Like, come on, So what is it that how do you want people to look at you regardless of what you did yesterday? Okay, you might have done something really bad yesterday, and that just fed into more of the hype of what people think of you now. I'm telling you, no restrictions. From here on out, what do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for a public speaker? Do you want to be known for a person like a Socrates, a philosopher? You want to be known for someone who helps people? Do you want to be known for being a giver, a cheerful giver? Do you want to be known for being a follower of God? Again, don't let your past bog you down. This is your bucket list. This is not meant to be a restrictive practice, right? It's just no restrictions. Throw it in there. If that's what you want, write it down on the paper. I want people to see me as a person of God. Bam, you said it. Leave it alone. Don't think about it. Don't say, but yesterday I did this. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's a killer of dreams, okay? All right, so you're getting the idea. I'm going to ask you to pause the video now. And here's just some more. How much money do you want to make, right? No restrictions. How much money do you want to make? Do you have degrees, right? In this bucket list, do you have what do you have? A bachelor's, a master's, a PhD in what? What kind of car do you drive? How many kids? What do your kids look like? Are they respectable? Do you have kids now? If you do have kids, what do they look like? What do you want them to look like? Again, no restrictions. Don't say, well, actually, they're this bad, right? No. Take ownership. What do you want them to look like? What do you want them to behave like? All right, because we'll talk about how this plays out later, right? But go ahead, throw it all in the bucket. And your bucket list is right here on page 19, where you can actually write these down. I'm asking you to push pause. Assuming you push pause, you can write that down. Otherwise, and this should take about 10 minutes. Okay, don't rush. Honestly, some people, it could take a year to finish this list, and that's okay. I'm still adding to this list because I realize as I grow, I'm realizing, okay, I climbed a mountain and now I can see a higher altitude. And guess what I see? More mountains, right? So you don't be surprised if after a year or 5 years, these things keep going more and more, because the higher you go, the more you can see, and the more you can see, the realize there's so much more to do. So don't be freaked out about that. Okay, so pause it. And I am moving on to the next section here. All right, so here's the section where we talk about the benefits of goal setting. All right, got my notes here. So goal setting, when done in an effective and deliberate manner, has many benefits and are similar to those provided by a GPS. All right, we all know what a GPS does, right? A GPS, well, go ahead and you tell me. All right, what does a GPS do for you? If you didn't have a GPS in the car and they told you to go point A to point B, what would naturally happen if you didn't have a GPS? Number one, you'd probably start freaking out, right? Like, oh, all right. And then you would probably make attempts to go. So you would ask people probably because you don't have the GPS. You'd probably learn the hard way, probably go down streets. And what's happening during that whole time? You're burning gas, right? You're gonna be late to where you want to go. Your car is wear and tear, right? So I want you to think of goal setting like that in the human perspective. Oh man, my throat. So I want you to think of goal setting like that from a human perspective. What does life look like when you don't set goals? You're just living every single day and then you die. And every single day that you lived, how frustrating is it when you don't have a direction that you're moving toward? And you're just realizing that the depressing part about it is that life is happening and you're looking back and you don't really have anything that you're proud of, right? Because you weren't intentional with your life. You just drove around the city and you never knew where you were going. So you burnt a lot of gas, you put wear and tear on your car, and that's going to happen anyway, mind you. Even if you have a goal, those are things that are still going to happen. But if they're going to happen, wouldn't you at least want them to happen in a direction that you want to go, right? Like you don't want to find out at the end of your life, the wear and tear of your car, that you never found a destination. You don't. And if you don't believe me, go visit the elderly care. And I'm telling you, there's a book written out there about the 5 deepest regrets of people before they die. And they tell you all the time they wish they would have been more proactive with their life. All 5 of those statements kind of jump around that statement. They wish they would have been more intentional with their life. Hence my company Intentionate, right? But there you go. They wish they would have been more intentional. And that when I learned that, the 5 regrets that people have before they die, like when I read about that, it blew my mind because I knew that they were talking the truth. All right, I got some elderly people in my family, and I can just see there's a lot of pain and a lot of suffering when I look in their eyes, and I can see that they wish they would have been more intentional. And so let's go ahead. Let's talk about how to goal set. All right. So where are you headed to? All right. You putting in the direction into your GPS of your mind and your heart and saying, where do you want to go? This is the activating behavior. And that's why we had you write a bucket list, right? Because you got to have some goals that you want. All right. Notice I didn't tell you to plan for those goals yet, but you got to start from somewhere, right? And so putting into the GPS where you want to go. You don't have a GPS for nothing, right? You got to say where you want to go. And your body is equipped to do that. You may not know that, but your body is amazing and it's equipped to help you achieve things in life if you use it correctly. And so understanding where you want to go is important, and you get those from your bucket list. We'll talk about that later, but you get that from your bucket list. Okay. Put in your goal. Let's see if I missed any notes here on that. Goal setting generates motivation, which activates behavior and gets you working towards your goal. Okay, so this is the goal setting. You set a goal. That's like putting it in the GPS. All right, next one. All right, it's going to tell you how to get there. So once you put it in, all of a sudden the GPS starts working on its own. You don't have to do anything else. The minute you set it, it's automatically going to tell you, okay, you're here. Go ahead and take a right here. Oh, and by the way, the next street, take a left, right? So it's going to direct your behaviors now. Goal setting directs behavior by creating a roadmap to your goal so that you are focusing on the right things at the right times. And I want you to write that in your notes. All right. It directs your behavior. Write that down so that you're focused on the right things at the right time. Okay. The right things at the right time. All right. Let's see what else the benefits of goal setting does. It can recalculate your behavior, right? Ever taken the wrong road? You know, the map says go left and you took a right because that car was in the way and it like got in front of your way and all of a sudden you're like, you made me miss it, right? So you missed your turn. Hey, that's okay, right? Because what is the GPS supposed to do? It reroutes you, and it's going to reroute you to the fastest way. It's not going to take you the longest way. It already knows what's the fastest route to get back on track. So yeah, goal setting is going to allow you to recalculate. We call this adjusting behaviors, okay? It says goal setting adjusts behaviors by promoting the development and use of new strategies, a new road, right? You weren't going on that same road anymore. Now you're using new strategies. When we goal set here in Master Resiliency course, we're going to teach you new strategies on how to do that. If your original plans become outdated, say you know, you had a original plan to achieve X, right? But maybe those plans were developed 10 years ago and they're no longer relevant now. There's new technology. Well, then now we're going to learn how to use those new technologies and strategies to get you there faster. So we're going to help you go further faster. If your original plans become outdated, you're more likely to adjust and less likely to give up. Okay, so if you have a comprehensive plan in place. All right, next one. All right, and then goals sustain your behavior. And as long as your behavior is sustained, you'll be able to arrive at the time that you calculated you would, right? What was cool about GPS is it tells you exactly the second you're going to get there, right? Like 18 minutes and 40 seconds. Right? It's going to tell you exactly what time you're going to get there. There's no question about it. It's even calculating the traffic, right? It's going to tell you when you get to this point, there's going to be about 18 minutes of traffic. Like, whoa, that's a good GPS, but it's true. So this is really what our class of goal setting is about. It's about knowing where you want to go. It's about creating a plan on how to get there. It's also about creating a plan on how to recalculate your life if you don't stay on track, which is okay, right? Like, I mean, I set a goal to complete college in 4 years. I set the goal. I knew where I wanted to go. And I had a 4-year plan because the school gave it to me. But guess what? I took a couple of left turns in wrong ways, right? And so you know how long it took me to get my bachelor's? 8 years. All right, 8 years. Some of that was due to I had a deployment, and a lot of it was due to my first 2 years of school didn't even count for college. I had to take like high school all over again because I didn't pay attention, but that's another story. All right, so either way, I had to recalculate. So some of that includes recalculating, right? You can set a goal where you want to go. It'll give you a plan. It's going to include recalculation methods in case you mess up your plan. It's okay. We're going to teach you how to get back on track. If you get sidetracked or you lose motivation, we're going to teach you how to do that. And then we're going to show you how to accomplish goals so that you can sustain the behaviors. And at the end of the day, it's not just about accomplishing the goal, is it? It's about who you become by accomplishing the goal. We don't want you to only just focus on the instrumental motivation, right? You can be instrumentally motivated, but eventually those are going to die. We want you to be internally motivated, okay? Motivated inside to just be that kind of person who achieves goals. Right? No big deal, right? That's what I do, right? That's what I do. Okay, so let me see if I got any last minute notes. So goal setting also allows you to maintain motivation by seeing your progress and celebrating small successes along the way. And we're going to teach you how to do that. You might say, well, this is an 8-year plan. Okay, but we're going to teach you how to celebrate the small successes and break those down so you can actually do some celebration on the way to it and actually enjoy the process and not just the goal part of it, right? You should be able to enjoy the whole thing. I hate it when people call like entertainers and stuff overnight successes. You ever hear the music industry or movie industry say, oh, it's an overnight success? Bull crap. If I was that entertainer, I'd smack him in the face, right? Because there's no such thing as an overnight success. The reality is they've been working on that guitar, that instrument, long before they got, known for whatever their overnight success is, right? So, when I got that degree, everyone cheered me and said, oh, what a happy day, that degree. But that wasn't the celebration moment. The celebration moment was when I took the test, when I did the homework, when I read the assignments. Every single step was a victory that led to me getting that. The degree part was just me getting recognized for it. Okay. All right. So at this point, I am going to tell you, let's take a pause. Let's pause this video. We've gotten to a point in our goal setting class that I've completed the introduction. I'm going to call this introduction to goal setting part 1. And then we will carry on our next video with part 2. Okay, I'm going to break this up. My throat's getting a little scratchy. I'm getting a little tired. It doesn't matter what time you, but for me, it's 10:30 p.m. here. I am tired. And so we're going to close out this video, but hopefully you understand now some of the basics about goal setting. Motivation matters. Okay. So you got to understand what motivates you. You got to understand what motivates others. You got to understand that there's intrinsic motivation. That's motivation that's just, no one has to tell you to do it. You just you inherently do it that way. That's very rare. It's very rare that you're a natural born leader, that you a lot of these things are very rare. For most of the population, it's very rare that you're a natural goal achiever, right? For most of the population, you got to work yourself to be there. And so now we get onto the other spectrum, and it says instrumental motivation. You use rewards and punishments to kind of help you be instrumentally motivated. That is motivation. It's just, it's not sustainable. The sustainable motivation is when you become internally, when you're able to change who you are inside. And all of a sudden you do it because it's who you are, not because of a reward, not because of punishment. You just do it because it's who you are. That is our goal. Okay. And then the last thing we talked about is our bucket list. Look, if you don't have a destination to put into your GPS, you're not going to get there. You're just going to be burning fuel. You're going to be doing wear and tear on your vehicle, which is your body, your mind, your heart, your soul. You're just going to be burning yourself out. So since you're going to burn yourself out anyway over the course of your lifespan, and eventually your vehicle will expire, right? Don't you at least want to be purposeful with it and put in a destination and go see beauty on purpose rather than on accident? Be purposeful with it, right? So this is what goal setting is about. Hopefully you did that bucket list, and hopefully, let me stop sharing my screen here and bring us back. Okay. So yeah, hopefully you did that stuff. You did your bucket list, and just reflect on that. And then we will pick up on the actual steps of goal setting in the next class. So this was the intro to the first skill, goal setting. Next one, we'll get into our 7-step process of goal setting, where you'll be using your participant guide from participant guide page 26 through 30. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for following along. Again, if you like this video, go ahead and click the like button. And then I do ask, if you want to keep getting these notifications, hey, subscribe to it, put your comments in there. If you want me to send you the participant guide, send me a message on there and I'll respond back to you. And then let me know what you thought about the video as well. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got for you. Take care. Appreciate you. See you later.